Vitamin D is important for type 2 because the problem in type 2 for most people is insulin resistance. And with the lack of vitamin D, you will have more insulin resistance. So getting your vitamin D levels up to a normal level will help you be more insulin sensitive. And when you're more insulin sensitive, then your blood sugar comes down to more normal and you don't have as much insulin either. So you get double benefit from taking vitamin D.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. I'm coming to you live from South Dakota, and we have a lot of snow. And I don't even know what the latest prediction said. I feel like I've officially reached that age where you're old and you talk about the weather, so I apologize. But I think they said we could get anywhere between 10 and 15 inches here today. Or in the next 24 hours-ish. So that's a lot of snow considering we already have that much on the ground. So
you're old and keeping track of the weather predictions.
I know.
I love in our Slack channel with the team, somebody shared a funny picture of a map of the United States that says big weather system coming through. Here's what we know so far. And it's just like scribbles of crayon all over, like a kid got a hold of it.
So all of you in sunny areas, just enjoy.
Yeah. And make some vitamin D while you're there.
Oh, sounds like a good topic. Maybe we should chat about that today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got a good question. I'll wait. It's a good one, though.
All right. So that is our topic for today, though, guys. We are going to talk about vitamin D. This is something that comes up, especially when Dr. Saunders talks about some of our supplements, some of the things that our body needs, et cetera. So we decided to dedicate an entire webinar to that. Not fully. We're going to talk about vitamin D, but we're also going to open it up for your questions. And as most of you know, unless you're new here, we do talk about primarily type 2 diabetes. So if you have questions that you would like to ask Dr. Saunders, we would definitely encourage you to do so. You can post those in the Q&A. Wow, we are already close to 100 participants. So you type those in the Q&A. If you're on Facebook, you can put those in the comments. I'll do my best to get to as many of those as possible. Let's start out here. Dr. Saunders, can you give us a disclaimer before we get started?
Okay, so the things we talk about are for general information and they're for instruction, but not for you specifically. So I'm not like your doctor. I'm not recommending a treatment for you based on this because it may not apply to you. You have to take like your tests and your individual circumstances and maybe even get with an expert, a doctor, or whatever, and figure out how your situation fits, or if the advice fits in with your situation. So don't take it as personal advice.
Yes. Awesome. One other thing I'm going to quick show you is the diabetes solution kit. This is what we talk about primarily on this show. And we talk about the different phases, the eating plan, etc. And those are the ways that we talk about to reverse type 2.
You show us the same one. You show us the same one every time. It's always got that circle around the top.
Because guys, you know what was really fun for me? I got to take a marker and go through this and see if I could find any things that needed to be changed. And so I don't have the updated version yet, but it is done. Just some little things. It won't change the content that's in here. Just some little text things that we wanted to change. So yes, my edits are still there. Thanks for pointing that out.
We should change the cover photo and have like a big group picture of everybody on our Zoom calls here together.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. But anyway, you may hear us reference the diabetes solution kit. If you have no idea what that is, you can find that at bartonwebinar.com. But we will talk more about that, and you will see some other people chatting about it as well. But today we're going to start by focusing on vitamin D. Dr. Saunders, take it away. Tell us what this is and why we should care.
Okay, so vitamin D is important for type 2 because the problem in type 2 for most people is insulin resistance. And with the lack of vitamin D, you will have more insulin resistance. So getting your vitamin D levels up to a normal level will help you be more insulin sensitive. And when you're more insulin sensitive, then your blood sugar comes down to more normal and you don't have as much insulin either. So you get double benefit from taking vitamin D. So if you notice, if you've ever seen our CinnaChroma, the CinnaChroma has vitamin D in it. And people go, well, the sunshine vitamin, why did you put that in there? Well, because it makes you more sensitive to insulin. And most people are deficient in vitamin D. So how much should you take? Well, we put a full day's dose in there of vitamin D. Not the high side, but on the low side, enough to get you into the normal range. And so it has 5,000 units, and 5,000 units is just enough to get you into the okay range. It's usually, most people I test that are taking 5,000 units are around 40 or 50 on their test. It depends on what, there's two different kinds of tests, but the one we use most, they're 40 to 50. And people who are taking 10,000 a day, so some people when they start CinnaChroma, they're taking it twice a day. They will usually be up more in the 60s to 80s range, which is more on the high side, which is fine. Up to 100 is considered normal. So what else does vitamin D do? And like, I gotta tell you, vitamin D is amazing. So it's not just for diabetes, even though we put it in CinnaChroma, it's for a lot of different things. The vitamin D binding protein is called macrophage activating factor. It's GCMAF. And this macrophage activating factor is something that has, when the vitamin D binds to it, it allows macrophages to function better. And what's really important about that is the macrophages are what takes out the dead cells and the cancer cells. So macrophages decrease the cancer. They also take out the infected cells. So cells that are dying, they're infected. It's kind of interesting, you know, we always think of antibodies, like you have to make these antibodies in order to get rid of an infection. But most viral infections are not antibody driven. When you first come in contact with the virus, it takes a while to build up antibodies. And in the meantime, you have what are called macrophages, and they're non-specific. This is cellular immunity. So it's kind of like, you've ever seen in San Francisco, they have those row of houses, and you always see those pictures in San Francisco. I grew up there. So, so these houses, and they're all like the same, and they're right next together, and they look the same. And then one of them is painted pink. And you go, gosh, all the other ones are yellow and white, and this one's pink. And it just stands out. That's kind of the way the cells look to the macrophage. The macrophage is going along, minding his own business, and all of a sudden he runs into a pink cell and goes, that's not supposed to be there. And so it literally eats the cell. It like grabs onto it and engulfs the whole cell and munches it up, digests it, chews it up, and then spits out all the protein and everything. And then the macrophage moves on and does what it does. So, so that's what it's doing. So if a virus comes in and attaches to the cell and starts making virus particles, then the virus proteins are sticking out on the cell surface, and macrophages go, hey, that's not supposed to be there, and takes it out. So before you even know you have an infection, your cellular immunity clears it out and gets rid of it if you have good cellular immunity. And so vitamin D stimulates that and allows that to function better. And is that actually a real thing? Yes. Yes, studies have shown that having adequate levels or even high levels of vitamin D decrease your risk of certain cancers, especially colon cancer and breast cancer. Not skin cancer, though, which is really funny. You'd expect you get better, you know, because skin, right? Because the vitamin D is made from the sunshine. So you expect it'll help skin cancer. Nope. Sun causes the two types of skin cancer is squamous cell carcinoma and basal cell carcinoma. those are clearly related to having sunshine or too much sun or burning, that kind of thing. Whereas melanoma, which is the bad one, melanoma is what can metastasize to other areas of the body, whereas the other two, squamous cell carcinoma, beta cell carcinoma, they just grow locally. So you can cut those out and be done with them. That's the important part. So vitamin D, higher levels of vitamin D decrease your risk of melanoma, but not squamous cell carcinoma and basal cell carcinoma. So isn't that interesting? Just that type of skin cancer. Vitamin D helps the immune system to function, gets rid of cancer, gets rid of viruses and bad cells, right? And so vitamin D is important for that. Another thing vitamin D is, it's a hormone. And we don't realize that it's a hormone, but it's a steroid hormone that's related to estrogen and cortisol and DHEA. And so it affects the hormone system as well, and allows balancing of the hormones, because in hormones, the amount is less important than the balance with other hormones. So your body works on balance, not on actual amount of most things. There's always a curve. But for hormones, there's stimulating hormones and then calming hormones, and you have to have the balance between them. It's kind of like with omega-3 and omega-6 oils. You have omega-3 oils suppress your immune system, and that's good if you don't want inflammation. But it also seems there's a couple of studies that say, it might increase your cancer risk if you have too much omega-3 and not enough omega-6. So they actually need to balance. You have to have enough omega-6 to create an immune response. So that's the best way. And so vitamin D helps with that too. Your immune system. And then the big thing that most doctors talk about is vitamin D. It helps balance your electrolytes, especially calcium and magnesium. And that is really important. Your calcium level has to maintain a constant amount all the time, because that's how your body runs. That's how your muscles contract, based on calcium going in and causing muscle contraction, and then calcium being pumped out and magnesium going in to allow relaxation. So those have to balance properly, and without the proper amount of vitamin D, you can get spasms of muscles, you can have weakness of muscles, and pain, a lot of pain associated with that. So vitamin D is really important, and having enough of it is hard to get. Why? Well, if you think about history, like way back in history, when people lived primarily outdoors, most people lived in their home environment. Their inside wasn't like kitchens and bathrooms and 5 bedrooms, and those were mansions. So very few people lived in those. Most people lived they slept indoors, and if it's bad weather, they're indoors. Otherwise, they're outdoors all the time. They cooked outdoors, they lived outdoors, they worked outdoors, and they're getting sunshine all the time. And then came the Industrial Revolution, and everything changed. So I read the book Heidi once, a long time ago, and there was another book called The Secret Garden.
I love The Secret Garden. That was one of my favorites.
Right. And so these books are about people living during the Industrial Revolution who could not get enough sunshine. So they had something called rickets, which is a lack of vitamin D. So Heidi meets this Clara, who's in a wheelchair, who has to be pushed around, and they never let her never let the sun touch her skin. And so she has this vitamin D deficiency. And she lived in Frankfurt, where there's a lot of smoke, and it's all coal burning and smoke everywhere. and the smoke filters out the ultraviolet light, so it doesn't actually reach down. And so few people are getting vitamin D, especially people who are indoors most of the time and clothed in hats and, you know, preventing the sun from touching them all the time. So, so she had rickets, which is a vitamin D deficiency. So Heidi invites her up to the mountains, and they go up to Grandpa's house in the mountains, and Clara gets well. She starts walking. Why? Well, because she got vitamin D. There were two sources of vitamin D. Number one, she's getting sunshine. Number two, she's drinking raw goat's milk. And so she's getting the vitamin D from at least those two sources. So it healed her. Why? Because she's getting enough. Now, we have that issue today in a more mild case, and that is, have you ever heard of osteoporosis? What is osteoporosis? Well, it's a lack of calcium in the bones. And why does someone lack calcium in the bones? Well, two reasons. One is our sedentary lifestyle, but number two is most people lack vitamin D. A majority of Americans lack vitamin D. We have low levels of it. Why? Because we're living indoors under artificial lights, and we work indoors all day. We're not out in the sunshine working all day. Some people are, and they probably don't lack vitamin D. But most people are indoors in climate-controlled environments. You know, you're in your car. And then when you're outside, you have a hat on. The sun isn't touching your skin very much. So it's really easy to get a vitamin D deficiency or have a lack of vitamin D, in which case you're not absorbing very much calcium. And since you're not absorbing calcium, it's not because you're not taking calcium pills. Calcium pills are not a good idea. It's because the vitamin D tells your intestines to absorb more calcium. And if you don't have vitamin D, then you just don't absorb it. So you can eat it all you want. You're not going to absorb it very well. And an interesting thing, people say, well, could vitamin D causing more calcium absorption cause you to get kidney stones? That is very interesting. The fact that it doesn't work that way, that people getting more vitamin D do absorb more calcium, but they use that calcium, they put it into their bones, especially if they have enough vitamin K. Whereas if they're taking vitamin D and calcium, then they do get more kidney stones. So taking calcium is probably not a good idea. Taking vitamin D is a good idea for a lot of different reasons, for all the things that we've been discussing.
Gary did ask, can you get too much vitamin D?
The answer is technically yes. There's something called vitamin D toxicity. But really what that is hypercalcemia. You have too much calcium in your blood. So then you start getting nausea, cramps in your muscles, and muscle weakness too, from having too much calcium. And that's primarily because you don't have enough vitamin K to take that calcium out of the soft tissues and put it into your bones. So having enough vitamin K will prevent you from getting vitamin D toxicity. But as far as like people dying from it, like vitamin A, you can really get toxic and actually die. It's poisonous. It causes liver damage. Whereas vitamin D toxicity is really just hypercalcemia, which can be prevented.
I think something that you've said in the past that is important to, just to say again, is like anything can be toxic. Like you can have too much water, and like you can die from having too much water. And so vitamin D, anything, like whatever it is, you can have too much. So, but yeah, there's a lot of like misinformation about, vitamin D. It can get too high, but it really is all about the calcium in the blood. And that's why the K2 is important. So.
Right. So when we made CinnaChroma, we gave vitamin D. And I specifically said, look, if you're going to put vitamin D in, we actually should put the K2 in there as well. K2 comes from bacteria. There's no other source of K2, only bacteria. And so fermented foods that have bacteria in them will have K2. And what we do is we take fermented foods instead of eating raw natto, miso, even like sauerkraut and stuff like that. We pasteurize everything and kill all the bacteria. So, having some vitamin K is probably a good idea. The other source of vitamin K is K1, which comes with like green vegetables, kale, spinach, all that kind of thing.
Can I ask my question? So this is just kind of a funny thing I saw that I want to know if it's true or not. Mythbuster time. So sunshine. So there was a post I saw about how seed oil, like sunflower, safflower, canola, different oils, are really the cause of sunburn, and that if you don't consume any of those bad seed oils and you're only having like healthy fats like olive oil and coconut oil, then you aren't going to get dangerous sunburn. You can basically be out in the sun all the time. Have you heard that before, or is there any correlation, or is that a myth?
I don't know of any research on that, but something along those lines of sunburns is the fat soluble antioxidants deposit in your skin, and you can protect your skin by getting high levels of antioxidants in your skin, and these are all carotenoids. So things like green vegetables have carotenoids, and of course carrots and peas, and red vegetables like red peppers, and lutein found in tomatoes, and berries. So the colorings in those are carotenes and various other carotenoids, vitamin E also. So those do prevent you from getting sunburn. They do actually protect your skin from the ultraviolet light, especially the carotenoids. So high levels of carotenoids in your skin. I had a patient who came into my office one time. He was yellow. He was like bright yellow. And I'm like, oh no, I think this guy has liver disease. And because when people have liver disease, they get bilirubin buildup, and that's yellow. And so they turn yellow. But that's when I was a resident. So I invited the attending physician in, and he looked at him and he goes, nah, his liver's fine. He just eats too much carrots. And he walked out. And I'm like, dude, do you eat carrots? And he's like, no, I drink carrot juice. I drink a pound of carrot juice a day, 16 ounces. So, so I asked the attending physician, how did you know? He said, just look at his eyeballs. The skin is yellow, but the eyeballs aren't. That means it's just carrots. And that's how you know. So anyway, the point is those carotenoids deposit in your skin, and they do prevent you from getting sunburn. So there is something to that, but I don't know about causing sunburn by getting those omega-6 oils. They do induce inflammation. So that's a possible thing, but I don't know.
I think it was related to the inflammation. I'll send you a link to the article later. So anyways, that was it for me.
So Dr. Saunders, what are your thoughts about sunscreen?
Generally, I'm against it. I think people should get sunshine, and they should be exposed. And remember, if you burn, though, you can get basal cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. But if you get more vitamin D, then you have less melanoma, which is the bad kind of skin cancer. So the ones that they can just remove locally, then those are the ones caused by the sun. So yes, when you talk to the dermatologist, they say, oh, the sun should never touch your skin, and you should always have sunscreen, the slather. And so Australia did this huge, like the whole society, they're like, put a shirt on, put a hat on, slather your sunscreen on and everything. And their melanoma rates went up. Their total skin cancer went down because the basal cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma decreased, but the melanoma increased, and people die from melanoma and nobody dies from squamous cell carcinoma. So, so from my point of view, I think you should get, 20 minutes of sunshine. Oh, that's a good thing with the vitamin D. Your body will make about 20,000 units of vitamin D in between 10 and 20 minutes of sunshine. You don't have to. I mean, think about it. What's your supplement? 5,000, 10,000, right? And the high side of 50,000 for once a week. And yet you can make 20 to 25,000 units in just, 10 or 20 minutes in the sun. So, and that you're not going to burn from that. So, having some sunshine is good for you. That's what I think. And then if after that time you're going to be in the sun for a long period of time, put sunscreen on. Don't burn.
Okay. Pam is wondering about the dosing. You mentioned, like once a week, 50,000. Do you recommend taking days off, and how much per day? Let's just review that part again.
Okay. Good questions. And I don't know the answers, but here's what the research shows. People with higher vitamin D levels, when they get sick, they get viruses or whatever, they have less of an illness. They're less likely to go to the hospital when they get the flu, for example. There was a really good study done in a nursing home in Canada where they gave 50,000 units once a day for 3 days to everybody who was exposed to the flu, and they had no hospitalizations the year that they did that. So it was, and they continued that and continued to have a very light flu season for a nursing home, right? So it's likely that, a high dose right away, if you get exposed to an illness or something, might be helpful. The general dose is between 5,000 a day and 10,000 a day. That will get you in the normal range, in the lower normal for 5,000 a day and the higher normal for 10,000 a day. And that's been very consistent. I test everyone, thousands of people. I test everyone for vitamin D, and I see this. So I know it works that way. So in CinnaChroma, for example, we put 5,000 in there. So you're either going to get 5,000 once a day, or if you take it twice a day, you're going to get twice a day. So you're going to get 10,000 a day. And that's a reasonable dose. Remember, in the sunshine, you're going to make 20,000. So that's still just like a physiologic, even sub-physiologic dose, especially. Now, your next part of the question is, do you take it intermittently? And so for a long time, we've had this, since it's a fat-soluble vitamin, the liver stores it, then you can take it and the liver will use it as needed. But there's been some research that shows that people taking a smaller dose daily were less likely to get sick than people who were taking a high dose infrequently, like weekly or biweekly or whatever. So, so it may be better to take it daily. I don't know. I've always said it's better to take things intermittently, but maybe vitamin D is an exception, or maybe getting sunshine regularly is an exception. I don't know.
Okay, so Pam also asked, what is vitamin D3?
Okay, so vitamin D2 is a vitamin made by a fungus. That's the mushroom vitamin D. And that's what is in the prescription vitamin D. So when you get 50,000 units of vitamin D from a doctor, a prescription, that's vitamin D2. And it works for a lot of the activities of vitamin D, but not all of them. It's not the normal vitamin D that we make. And it's about 15% bioactive compared to vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is the vitamin that we make, and they used to get it from like sheep lanolin. They would take out the dihydro cholesterol and expose it to ultraviolet light, and then take out the vitamin D and isolate the vitamin D and then give that as the vitamin. Now they have other ways of producing that chemically. So, but vitamin D3 is the natural vitamin that humans make. And all mammals need it. You know what's really interesting? I'll bet you didn't know this. Birds need vitamin D, but they're covered with feathers everywhere. So like a chicken, for example, they excrete the dihydrocholesterol into their legs and the sunshine on their legs makes the vitamin D for them. So that's how chickens get their vitamin D. Other animals that are covered with fur, the dihydrocholesterol will come out in the fur, and then they lick their fur because then the sun comes out and they lick their fur and they're eating their vitamin D. It's really interesting the way every animal needs it, and how they get it is in different ways. Wow. If their skin is not exposed to the sun, because the sun is the only, or ultraviolet light from the sun is the only way that you can ever make vitamin D. There's nothing that makes it without sunshine.
Very interesting. Always learning something new, that's for sure. And no one had to tell them to do that, those animals to do it. They just do it naturally.
They don't have,
they don't have to learn these things like we do. They just do it.
Yeah. Like
sunlight coming through windows typically is not getting the UV rays, right? So it's not, you have to be direct sunlight.
Yeah. Actually, direct sunlight is best. There, you can get it through windows, but the glass that has like safety glass, if it has the plastic in it, it'll take out the ultraviolet that actually makes the vitamin D. And then some like plexiglass, some plastics take out that ultraviolet that is the high energy ultraviolet that makes the vitamin D.
I do have this sunshine in a plugged in, I don't even know what these are called. What are these called?
Sun lamp, kind of?
Yes, thank you. That you can set on your desk.
Full spectrum light.
How do you feel about these? Happy light, that's what it is, happy light.
Happy light, it's a full spectrum light. Well, it's made for, when you get your retinas with the full spectrum light on your retinas, then it tells your body that, oh, it's daytime, it's wake up time. And so that's the idea of using those. It really doesn't make vitamin D.
Okay. All right. So many questions in here, you guys. This is so good. Ronald said, hi, I am a 67-year-old with type 2 diabetes that has been on this ketogenic diet for the last 2 months now. I'm happy to say that I've lost 60 pounds and I've had my blood sugar level go from 118 to 92.
Wow.
How awesome is that? My question for Dr. Saunders is this: am I at a greater risk of strokes or heart attacks on this diet long-term due to the higher cholesterol level in eggs, bacon, etc.? Is it better to go all vegan after I get my blood sugar level in a normal range?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So personally, I think that a high fiber diet is better. And I always joke about the bacon, sausage, cheese omelet and drinking cream for breakfast. But you know what? You don't have to eat the eggs and bacon. In fact, I just wrote an article on colon cancer. Colon cancer is associated with processed meats, meaning like bacon and ham and hot dogs. So avoiding that stuff is probably a good idea anyway. And so instead of that, what else would you eat? Well, there's a whole list of green free foods in there. You can have all the broccoli and cauliflower and spinach and lettuce and salads and celery and peppers and cucumbers and avocados. All of that stuff you can have pretty much as you want, and you don't have to eat eggs and bacon all the time.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about, we did a couple episodes about cholesterol, and the things that you shared don't exactly agree, I guess, with what you would normally hear about cholesterol. And so do you get super concerned about someone when they say, this is what I'm eating, I'm worried my cholesterol is going to be a little high? Do you feel like those foods could cause a heart attack for him?
Well, no. Foods that the primary issue is not really the fat in foods, and that's where the big paradox was a problem, and that is that they would say that that the fat is causing the problem, and really it's the sugar that's causing the problem. So you're better off eating the low sugar, but it turns out that when research is done on it, either way works well. You can cut out the fat and eat just sugar, like fruits and vegetables and have a high fiber diet. And that's really good for you. And that'll reverse heart disease. Or you can cut out all the sugars and eat like what do they call it? A carnivore diet. And that works too. So it isn't that you have to do one or the other, but mixing them probably isn't a good idea. So if you separate your carbs, you eat your fruit separately from whatever butter and all of that. So an avocado, for example, has a lot of fat in it, but it doesn't have any sugar in it. So your natural foods are either going to have fat or sugar, and they don't have both. Even nuts, the really high oil nuts like sesame and walnuts, pecans, they have a lot of fat, but they don't have hardly any carbohydrate. The ones that are higher in carbohydrates have less oil. Peanuts aren't really a nut, so and they have a significant amount of carbohydrates and oil as an exception. Anyway, so and grains too have oils and carbohydrates, like corn, for example. So the idea being that you don't mix them. So have one or the other. So have like meat and vegetables, and then rice and vegetables, but not meat and rice, right? Or potatoes and vegetables.
Okay. All right. We keep talking about that too, about eating fats, eating protein. Well, Dr. Saunders keeps telling us that we shouldn't eat protein, fats, or carbs. And so we're a little bit.
That's all you have to avoid.
Yeah,
Everything
we're a little limited
okay
on what we can eat. Oh boy. Anyway, just joking. You do need to eat food still, but unless we talk about fasting, which that's a whole nother webinar. Okay, we will move on here to Sherry. My name is Sherry Lewis, mother of 9, and this is my first time joining the webinar. Let me start by saying Dr. Saunders' sincerity and authenticity shines through when he teaches and explains his knowledge in a way that the average person or patient can understand. We agree. That's awesome.
Wow, Sherry. Cool. My wife birthed 9 children too, so we have something in common.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so Sherry has 2 questions. She's dealing with both the diabetic and heart disease symptoms. Which solution should I use first, the diabetes solution kit or the healthy heart solution kit?
Oh, definitely the diabetes solution kit. Definitely.
Okay. And are you familiar with GOLO? GOLO. Some of your ideologies are similar. And if so, what's your view of their vegetarian release capsule? He's not familiar with it.
I'm not familiar with it. So the rule is, I looked it up once, but I don't know enough about it to tell you. The rule is, if they're selling you something, you probably don't need it. And so you're going, wait a minute, you guys are selling something. True. You don't have to do it my way. There's another way. I'm just trying to make it easy for you. That's all.
Yes. Dr. Saunders is always telling us, like the diabetes solution kit, people typically will say, but can I just take CinnaChroma to reverse my type 2? Or can I use Nervala to do this? And he will always come back to the real success is in the diabetes solution kit. That's where you start, and the supplements are there to help. So, but now tell us, why would you choose the diabetes solution kit over the healthy heart solution right now?
Okay. All right. Because the diabetes solution kit offers something that makes a big difference in your life. So having insulin resistance causes Alzheimer's disease, it causes heart disease, it causes neuropathy, it causes loss of kidneys. In fact, the insulin resistance can cause a loss of kidneys. You could be in kidney failure before your blood sugar even goes up. That's how important that is. So you have so much more benefit from doing the diabetes solution kit by getting your insulin resistance down and getting your insulin levels down.
All right. Good stuff. This is good to know. Okay. Linda says, guys, I cannot believe we are only at 15 minutes left. This has flown by. Okay. What does one do when there is a difference between doctors on treatment?
Okay. Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. Oh, this is exciting. Okay. The doctor is an expert, and remember that the rule is experts aren't. So they're experts in what they do, but they don't know you at all. So you're the only one who knows you. So when you have a disagreement, like one doctor's telling you should be on this cholesterol medication, and another doctor is saying, no, you shouldn't be taking cholesterol medication. How do you decide which to choose? The best way to do that is the same thing that we tell everybody. We make a disclaimer, and the doctors have a disclaimer. I don't know you. I don't know your situation, but I'm going to make the standard recommendation because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I learned in medical school. So you get the standard of care, whatever that happens to be. And so when there's a difference, then you make a decision, you decide, and you ask the question of each one. Well, why do you think that? And then ask the other one, why do you think that? And then you go, nah, I don't think that's right. I'm going to go with this. And so ultimately, we do a disclaimer to say, I'm not giving you information. You have to decide what's best for you. And that's where they are. When you have a difference of opinion of doctors, I just love it when people come in and say, you know what, I've been on these medications for 10 years and they're not making me feel good. They're not working. I don't think my doctor knows what he's talking about. I want to find a different way. Okay, this is a person who's taken their life into their hands and they're saying, I'm not going to trust an expert anymore, or the expert isn't an expert in me, and I'm going to start becoming an expert in me. And then I do tests on them. I show, okay, look, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this. For this reason, you should do this and this and this because you have this and this. And there's very specific reasons for everything that I recommend. And so that they can look at their tests and go, oh, I need thyroid because this TSH is a little on the high side and my T3 is a little low. And they can look at the numbers and say, that's why I need this and that's why I have that issue. So that's where you start educating yourself. I just think that's so important.
Good stuff. Okay. Tanya says, you might remember me, Tanya, recently married. And I do remember you, Tanya. She her husband quit taking all of his meds, cold turkey, started, you'll remember this part. He had his Diet Mountain Dew in the refrigerator and never touched it, even though for like a week or two, and never touch it. He was that hardcore, and she was committed to helping him. And Tanya, I think you even had like surgery on your hands or your wrists or something while you were cooking all of his food, if I remember correctly. You'll have to let me know. But anyway, okay. So yes, I do remember you very well. Okay. He quit drinking the Diet Mountain Dew, started on 20 carbs a day. It's been nearly 4 months and his A1C is 7.9 and his blood sugar is running steady between 150 and 200. Wish it was lower, but he doesn't want to stop. We are still at it. Wondering if taking more CinnaChroma would help.
The answer to that is no. The answer to your question is something that you didn't ask, and that is how can we, because if you've been on for 4 months and the hemoglobin A1C is still over 7, then there's something there, because it's really a 3-month test. The hemoglobin A1C is an average over about 3 months, and well, I don't know where he started. If he started at 12 or something, 7 would be really good.
I feel like he did start pretty high, if I remember correctly, but.
Okay. Okay. So if you want better results, then eat fewer carbs in the day, because ultimately what you want to do is have the insulin resistance drop down. And so carbohydrates cause you to make more insulin. Now, remember that some people, protein causes them to make more insulin. And so you may have to be careful with smaller doses of protein, like you're eating, a 3-ounce fillet and instead of a 8-ounce fillet, kind of thing, that kind of thing. So having smaller amounts of protein or concentrated proteins like eggs and meat and cheese might be a good idea.
I was also thinking too, we had someone on the webinar, I've mentioned this before, that found out even when he was chewing sugar-free gum, his blood sugar numbers would increase significantly. And so there's always those little things that could possibly be added in there that you don't realize are creating problems. So really drilling down on the diet is good. And even writing it all down, which I think you probably did in the beginning. If you're not doing that still, that'd be a good thing to do. But so good to hear from you, Tanya. I'm so glad that you're on the webinar again. I so enjoyed chatting with you. Okay. Praise report. My A1C has gone down to 6.1. Discussed the program with my doctor and she recommended I continue, and she was happy for me. She took notes of what I was taking and she said she's heard of Dr. Saunders before. I left on it. Yeah. I left
I'm famous.
You're famous.
That's one thing I've never wanted to be.
Agreed. I left on a positive and excited note. I do struggle with sugar cravings, especially in the evenings. I have not read all of my material. Perhaps the answer is in there, but what can I do to lower cravings? I try to lean on apples, but lately my taste buds have been lacking. Is any of this causing this?
Okay. Yes. Dealing with cravings is an issue. And you know what? I've dealt with this issue a lot. I have a sweet tooth, and I've explained that in the past. Substitution is really the only thing you can do about cravings, unless you just want to white knuckle through it. I have people who do yoga breathing, and they sit down and they just, and then 10 minutes later they're up and the craving's gone. Okay, great. You know, that works too. Going out for a walk, exercising, doing something else, having a trigger, and having that trigger, instead of triggering you to go to the kitchen and get something sweet that you need, having it trigger something different, like breathing or exercise, or sometimes something else. Because I know food isn't necessarily the best way to handle cravings, because switching to a different food, like when I had Skittles all the time, I switched to raisins. And well, it turns out raisins are just little bags of sugar too. So that wasn't much of a switch. And then I switched to almonds, and then I switched to carrots. And now I don't have cravings anymore. So, you know, maybe that would work. I don't know.
I saw Richard said, just say no and say a prayer. That was good.
Hey, that's a great idea.
And Rayanne said, I'm craving salt. The more higher my dose of meds, the more salt I crave.
Oh, that's really interesting. So sometimes craving salt really means your electrolytes are imbalanced. And so you may need salt, because if you're dehydrated, then you actually may need salt to maintain your water balance, because some people drink too much water and they deplete their body of salt, and then they become dehydrated from a lack of sodium, because your body can't hold on to water. So everything you drink, you just pee out, and you're not actually hydrating yourself. You're actually dehydrating yourself because you're losing salt with the water. So sometimes you actually need salt. So
interesting.
I don't know.
She says that explains a lot. I do drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
So that could be.
Yeah. You know, water restriction, fluid restriction is a good way to overcome that.
Okay.
No food or drink, no water after 6 p.m.
Joe, we had a question. Are we shipping products to Central America?
I do believe we are. Yes.
Okay. Also, well, we can talk about that at the end. Let's get to these questions. We have 5 minutes left with Dr. Saunders. So Kim says, I want to ask you about cinnamon plus chromium, which would be our CinnaChroma. My A1C has been 5.6 for the last 2 times that I had blood work done. My dietitian told me that I didn't have to keep taking it. I just want your recommendation.
Okay. If you're taking cinnamon and chromium, yeah, you don't need cinnamon if your hemoglobin A1C is 5.6. That's normal. That's not pre-diabetic. It's in the normal range. It's not optimum. Optimum would be around 5.0, but you can do that with diet, and the cinnamon wouldn't be an issue. Chromium, Chromium you should probably take intermittently anyway, because we just don't have any foods and it's a common deficiency. So if you just take it periodically, you take your once a week chromium tablet, that'll be fine. Or if you're taking CinnaChroma, then yeah, take it once a week. Unless you want the vitamin D, then you can take it every day. Yeah, it depends. But the answer is the answer is not a supplement. The supplement doesn't fix a problem. The supplement is to assist you.
All right. I had a couple questions about, should I take 1 or 2 capsules of CinnaChroma with turmeric at each meal, or twice per day, or when should people be taking their supplements, or those 2 specifically?
Those 2 specifically are best taken with a meal. The turmeric is better absorbed with some fat, so that's better with a meal. And so is the vitamin D and vitamin K in the CinnaChroma. So we do recommend it. It says on there to take with breakfast, would probably be the best.
Okay. Robert says, I take metformin, CinnaChroma, and vitamin D3 and have been following some of your diet recommendations. My glucose levels have leveled out between 5 and 6.5. Is this normal? As I've only been using this combination for 3 weeks now. And thanks for all the information you provide. I've lost 4 pounds.
Oh, good. Good. Okay. So 5 to 6.5 is 100 to 180-ish. So in the hundreds is what we would, in the United States, those are the numbers we use. So between 5 and 6.5 is on the almost normal range to on the high side. The supplements that you're taking, including metformin and all that, that's fine, that's great. But your blood sugar should be lowered by your diet. So don't look at a supplement as something that's going to lower your blood sugar. Your blood sugar is specifically related to food. So if your blood sugar is going high, you ask, what did I eat to cause that? And then if you have a CGM, those continuous glucose monitors, that's awesome. Then you can follow it along, and you can go, oh, I ate a potato, and look at what happened to it, or whatever. And sometimes you can eat a potato and it won't, because you don't have any fat with it. So sometimes like French fries might make it go up way higher than a baked potato with spices on it. And you go, what? Why does that make sense? Because fat makes you insulin resistant. And so you don't absorb the sugar as fast, so your sugar goes up higher. So that's where a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, can be really helpful.
Yes. Brian, our friend Brian is on. He said, hi all, glad Joe is here to hear this also. It's my 1-year anniversary of my diagnosis of type 2. I'm on phase 2, taking in 80 grams of carbs per day. Tests in the morning are all under 105 and mostly under 100. No metformin, staying away from all sweets as much as possible. Last A1C was 5.5. Thank you all so much for the guidance. Amazing.
Good work. Good work.
Yeah.
1 year out.
Woo! Way to go.
Good. And he does have a question. Is eczema the result of too much of something or a deficiency in something?
Oh, good question. Okay. Eczema is a reaction to something. So not necessarily deficiency. If people have general eczema, sometimes they have an immune system dysfunction. Sometimes a deficiency could be. There are certain and too much of things too. Certain nutrients like omega-6 fatty acids, for example, that will increase the chance of eczema. Omega-3 will tend to suppress it. So if you're imbalanced that way, there are certain minerals that can induce eczema. That's a difficult one. When people come into my office with eczema, I say, okay, you're reacting to something. And we also test the immune system to see if they're hyperreactive, because sometimes they'll have like autoimmune. Oh, you also have autoimmune thyroiditis, your ANA is high. So there might be something there. And then I test for a bunch of allergies and sensitivities and food sensitivities and all of that to look for the cause. It's not that easy. It's just a quick story. I had one guy who had a perfect eczema patch. It was perfectly round, right on his shoulder. And I'm like, well, what do you have? Do you have some kind of clothing or something? Because, you know, nickel, for example, will cause eczema. If something metal has nickel in it, it can cause a reaction in the skin. It looks like eczema. He says, no, I don't wear anything that has a button. It's just too perfectly round. They call them coin lesions in dermatology. And so I said, okay, you're reacting. I just gave him a cortisone cream and it went away. So then it came back. And so he came back and I gave him a stronger cortisone cream and it went away. And then it came back again. So I said, okay, you're reacting to something. We got to find out what it is. And he says, it's not my medications. And I'm like, it could be your medication. He says, no, I've been on those for 10 years and I've never had a reaction. I said, stop the medications. So he did. And it turns out it was his beta blocker. It went away, completely disappeared. And then he goes, I don't believe it. So he started taking it again and it came right back where it was in exactly the same spot in a perfectly round, exactly right there where it was before. It's really weird. His blood pressure medication was causing it. And it's just one spot of eczema. So, you know, it's hard. You got to figure these things out, where it's coming from.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
The body likes to give us clues to things, though, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Saunders, awesome as always. See you next week. Thank you so much.
Okay, next week.
All right, guys. It's me and Joe. You're stuck with the two of us.
Oh.
I think there's a couple of questions in here that I can help with. So, okay. So first of all, I'm just going to quick comment on this, the diabetes solution kit. There were some questions about this. If you don't have your copy or you want to learn more about this, just head to bartonwebinar.com. That's kind of your hub where you're going to find a lot of information about these webinars, a link to our YouTube channel, which you are going to want to subscribe. You'll get notified every time we upload a new video, and you can search all 180 episodes to find information about what you may be looking for. I think someone was even looking for something on, I don't remember, but you can type it in the search and see if we've done a webinar on it. Something else about this. Oh, once you go to bartonwebinar.com, you'll find links to some of our supplements and also the solution kit. Use code webinar25 and you will save 25%. And I did type that in the chat, but I probably will do that again here in a second. You're going to want to use that. That's kind of an added benefit for being on these webinars. You get a discount. Sherry asks, if something is sugar-free but still sweet, are the substitutions more harmful than sugar or the same? And Dr. Saunders does talk about this. Again, if you go to bartonwebinar.com, there's just a real quick clip. We have a list of our top questions that people ask. That is one of them. And he will tell you that some people are very sensitive to the taste of sweet, and so they will react to that. He recommends that when you're in phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit, that you avoid all things sweet. And then as you move on, you can try and see how your body responds to those things. So that's what we would recommend. What type of cinnamon is best for combating diabetic issues? You know what? This got brought up last week. So on episode 179, which actually isn't up there yet, we talk about this. I don't know off the top of my head, actually. Maybe you do, Joe, but
which one was that?
Which cinnamon is best?
Oh boy, I always forget because
I know, I do the same thing. So I would make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, go to bartonwebinar.com. When episode 179 is uploaded, it did get brought up in that episode. Okay,
it might be Ceylon, Ceylon, but
okay. Yep, Brian said it is Ceylon.
Okay.
Well, yeah, a couple of people did. Sherry too.
Oh yeah.
Thank you,
Pretty
guys.
sure.
You guys are the best. Okay, Onique, or however you pronounce that. I'm afraid I can't answer that. I hope you can come on next week and we try to answer this question for you. The number one thing, though, that I will say that Dr. Saunders says, you know, if you're close, if you're pre-diabetic, the diabetes solution kit is your best option. Oh, Anonymous had posted, you know, their numbers spike in the morning. And guess what? That is one of our top questions. So bartonwebinar.com, and he will tell you why that is and what his thoughts are about that. And if you need to be concerned. But we get asked that all the time. It's very common. So I would go there and check that out.
Hey Leslie, we recorded that like top 25 questions asked webinar. Has that one been uploaded to YouTube yet? Do you know?
Yes, it has. That is a great place to go also. Let me see what episode that was. So episode number 175.
Oh yeah.
So I can get the link for that and I'll post it here.
Right, next question. What are the two to oops.
Oh, I was like, oh, are you asking the question?
I just found it. I'll post it in here.
Perfect. That's a great episode for you guys, especially if you are new to this. That's a great one to start with. It'll probably answer a lot of your questions. And we went through those fast. So
yeah, that was a good one.
I'm just going to type this link in here also. bartonwebinar.com. Use the code webinar25, save 25%.
We're up to over 12,000 subscribers on YouTube now. That's pretty exciting.
That is. My daughter, who is 11, would be so jealous.
She's 11 now? Man.
Yes, I know. Okay. Use code webinar25. Okay, got that. I'm posting it there. Okay, I think that's all we can answer really right now. There's probably some things I missed in the chat, but guys, it's so fun. Some of you I've gotten to chat with on video, and I see that you're on here, and that is, I just love it. It's like my friends are hopping on. If you have a story to share though, I would love to hear it. Tell us about your journey with the diabetes solution kit or some of our supplements. If you have found success with it, we definitely want to hear. Email me, Leslie@bartonpublishing.com, and let's chat. Okay.
Yes.
I think that's going to be it. Oh, William Davenport had just commented about how he had found some more information about brown fat cells. And that was a question that came up in another episode. So if you were wondering about that, I'll repost his notes here so that you can all see it.
Kathy asked about, let's see, how long do I need to stay under 100 to move to phase 2? I think Dr. Saunders has said like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah.
That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll know too, if you move to phase 2 too quickly, your numbers will go up and you'll know, oh, I got to go back. That's the fun part of it. And if you listen to Brian's story, I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of hope and excitement as you're doing the really hard stuff in phase 1. You'll hear Brian, who now he's on phase 2, but he probably is closer to phase 3. He's able to eat 80 net carbs per day. 80. So those of you who are at 20, imagine 80, and you could get there. That's exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the beauty, I think, of this, and you get to figure out what works best for you. You'll notice which foods spike your blood sugar, etc. So it's not always fun, but it's worth it.
Yep, resetting our bodies, just doing a reboot. That's really what it is. Getting our bodies are constantly healing themselves, and so we're trying to align our bodies so that it can heal itself more effectively. And that's why eliminating, the carbs and different things, those things are like blocking the healing process. So that's one way to think about it, as extra motivation to avoid those those extra carbs and all those foods that cause inflammation and things like that. So yeah,
Brian says follow the kit.
Follow the kit. Yeah, it's way more than just the food too. That's a big part of it. That's probably one of the biggest things. But like we talk about the 6-10 reset, stop eating at 6 o'clock so you are in bed on an empty stomach at 10 o'clock. That's what the 6 and the 10 stands for. And the empty stomach is the biggest thing, because your body then repairs itself overnight with human growth hormone and the other things like stress reduction and getting good sleep, even relationships and like forgiveness and getting that kind of stuff out. Like it's more than just physical stuff. It's relationship, it's emotional healing, and it all works together. So the healthier you eat, the more and the more like physical exercise you do, like walking or lifting weights and doing things like that, all of that is just going to help get healthy. And the more of that you can do, the better you're going to feel, the better your numbers will be. And so, yeah, do it as much as you can. And with a heart of gratitude to God, because he's the one that's helping us teach all this. Like, we're learning just like you guys are all the time. And Dr. Saunders is a gift for us to be able to work with him and learn from him. And yeah, so we're blessed. We're thankful for everybody being here with us, and appreciate you guys engaging with us. I think we had like 125 people on at our peak today, which is awesome. That's probably close to the most we've had. Getting close to where we can't get to everybody's questions, but like we posted that other webinar, the top 25 questions that we get is episode 175 on YouTube. And yeah, and just keep watching those and read the kit. Like Brian said, follow the kit. You're in good hands. We'll be looking forward to hearing testimonials and progress reports from everybody on here. So good stuff. Yes. Leslie, you do an awesome job too. We can't say that enough. You just this is like your flow. Like, you just rock this. Like, you definitely are like the star of the show and make this all just giving us consistency. So thank you for what you do here.
Well, thank you very much. It's fun. It's an honor too. I really enjoy it. It's fun for me too, because I get to learn right with you guys and I get to know all of you. So it's really the best job, honestly.
Hey, if you're still on Zoom, hit that raise hand button to give Leslie a high five here. Boom, high fives. Let's see how many we can get.
That's awesome.
We got 20. Woo!
Oh, you guys.
Woo, 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 woo.
That's awesome.
You're loved. All right. Anything else, Leslie?
Oh boy, even Facebook's blowing up. That's great.
Oh man, all right.
That's it from me. You guys come back next week. Tell a friend about this. And yeah, thanks. We so appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.